Hello everyone, my name is John Bussart. I'm an HPE Business Transformation Center engineer for Ingram Micro. I help support HP servers, blade systems, storage, as well as Aruba networking technology solutions. In my videos, what I like to do is show you a slide from a popular PowerPoint, then demonstrate to you what that means within a management context. Today we're going to be doing a deployment of an HPE dHCI solution based on Alletra MP. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I know my side says Private Cloud Business Edition. So a lot of times the HP marketing material likes to describe things as the GreenLake cloud-based management platform. So if we go up into GreenLake, we will see a tile that says Private Cloud Business Edition. Just as with Alletra MP block storage, they a lot of times call that GreenLake for block storage, because again, that's a tile up within the GreenLake platform. So as long as we understand that there's a hardware piece, dHCI, right, and then there's the management piece, Private Cloud Business Edition, or sometimes they'll abbreviate PCBE, we kind of understand what they are going for. So let's talk a little bit about dHCI, or Private Cloud Business Edition. It is going to be a stack of components from HPE to kind of create a disaggregated hyper-converged solution, and that's what dHCI stands for. So what is disaggregated hyper-converged? Well, it's a hyper-converged solution with all the values and benefits that doesn't rely on software-defined storage. All right, so we actually have a physical array, and in this case, it's going to be an Alletra MP-based solution. All right, so this is new for the dHCI or Private Cloud Business Edition offering. Right, in the past, they've done these solutions based on Alletra 5000 and 6000 base storage solution. And if you look at the underpinnings of these architecture, the Alletra 5000 and 6000 is based off Nimble type of framework, and the Alletra MP for block is based off maybe, like you might say, the 3-par based framework. So if we look at under the hood, we'd see that architecture would exist within these solutions. So the Alletra MP within the solution is something that's new. I will say that the deployment of the solution will include HP client servers as well as the storage solution, and it is suggested obviously that you use HP networking, but you don't necessarily need to use those as a part of your solution. Today, they run on VMware vSphere, but in the future, we're going to be looking at an alternative hypervisor, and certainly HP has made that announcement. All right, now, if you've deployed a dHCI solution or a Private Cloud Business Edition solution out of the cloud, the deployment will be similar. There is one important difference. With these solutions, there is a data services connector virtual machine that exists on one of the ESX hosts that you're going to deploy. Actually, it'll be on both the ESX hosts, but one of them will go away after you pick the one you want to marry up with the cloud. So that'll be a part of this deployment process, but everything else should be, familiar as we go on through this. Again, we're going to do this deployment out of the cloud of this solution, but there is still some on-prem setup that you need to do for this technology. So with all that being said, let's go and deploy this solution. All right, looking at the back of the Alletra MP, we can see a blue blinking light telling us the system has not been deployed. All right, what you're seeing me do here is disable as well as enable the Bluetooth adapter on my phone, and I'm going to go discover the Bluetooth dongle that's on the back of my Alletra MP. Once I've done that, I can open up the HP Storage Connectivity mobile app, and I can actually discover the system, and I'm going to click on this big old connect button. Now, discovering the system via Bluetooth is optional. There's also an Ethernet connection that you can use, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this mobile app up to the point where I can click deploy, and I'm going to stop there and actually show you the PC app way of deploying this, and I'll actually complete it through all of that. So right now I'm entering the IP address that is going to be on the management interface on the Alletra array, and quite obviously I'm going to need a gateway as well as a DNS server in order to be able to communicate out with the internet and up to the GreenLake platform. I don't have a proxy server, so I'm not going to fill out any of this, but what I will want to do is enter a good time server. So I'm going to use the Google time server. You want to be in sync with whatever you have on-prem as well as up in the cloud, so your information will appear correctly. All right, now I'm going to stop here before I click the deploy button. Okay, I'm actually going to complete this portion of the deployment process with the HPE Discovery tool, and you can see I just dropped in the serial number and I was easily able to discover the system. That is because I have the Ethernet connection into the CDM module and I'm on the same subnet. You can see I breezed by that security warning. That was fine. Obviously, we're connecting to an internal system. I just clicked on Getting Started, and I'm going to read the EULA in excruciating detail. And I'm going to move forward. Now, the information I put in here should be similar to what you've seen me put in the mobile app. It is the same deployment process, just two different mechanisms in order to be able to do this portion of the deployment. For example, that IP address is the IP address is going to be on the Alletra MP management interface. With that comes a subnet, and if I want to communicate with the rest of the world, I'm certainly going to need a gateway. All right, now I'm going to want to communicate up with the cloud, so DNS resolution is going to be important. The main management plane is going to be up within the GreenLake platform for the Alletra MP. For creating volumes, you'd use something like block storage. This is a dHCI deployment, so I'm going to use Private Cloud Business Edition found up within the GreenLake platform. I don't have a proxy, so I'm going to blow through that. Time is very important. I want to be in sync with whatever the cloud is using, so that's why I'm using time.google.com. And then I'm going to plug in my region here. Now, when I'm done with this portion of the deployment process, if it was an Alletra NP, I would want to go up to the cloud to complete the process. But because this is a PCBE and I have to actually do a connectivity VM in the environment, I have to set that on up. Now, you can see that I'm going through this a lot quicker. I fast forward that. And once again, if this was an MPO, I'd launch into the Data Services Cloud Console to finish this. Because this is PCBE, I actually have to do an extra step. All right, we now have a green blinking light in the black of the Alletra MP showing we have GreenLake connectivity. All right, the next part of the on-prem process is setting up the data services connector. I fished out the IP address of this VM from within my DHCP server. There should be one of these VMs on each of the ESX hosts. You can see I have two of those. The extra ones will go away. All right, so you can see I have some preliminary DNS information. I am going to plug in a time server. Again, I'm going to use Google's time server because I want proper synchronization between my on-prem setup as well as the GreenLake Cloud Console. I'm going to plug it in my region, so I'm in the New York region, so let me fish that out from within this menu. All right, there it is, and I'm going to click Next. Next, I got to put in the serial number of my array, so I'm dropping that in, and I'm going to discover that system. You can see it's going to find some simple information once I click Next. I'm going to click Next again. This marries this VM with that this data services connector. I'm going to put a static IP address on this data services connector. I think that's a good idea. So I'm going to plug that address in, and quite obviously, I'm going to need a gateway as well as a subnet mask. This will allow me to have connectivity between this on-prem VM and Private Cloud Business Edition within DSCC, and again with that, that's all within the GreenLake platform. Now, there are some Docker networking components. You can leave them as is unless you have a reason to change them. This message is just telling me it's going to convert me from the static IP address that I fished out over to this static IP address that I just plugged in. All right, and this will take and flip us on over, and we're going to submit this. We're almost done. I'm going to grab that activation code, and we're actually going to launch the Data Services Cloud Console. I'm already logged in, so I'm going to go right into Private Cloud Business Edition. Right, and then we're going to go down. I'm going to take a quick peek here underneath Setup. And you can see that we don't have connectivity right now. It says not connected. And I'm going to go over to Data Services Connector, and I'm going to add this VM into this environment. This is the way you do this. You don't have to download a package. You just click Next. The package already exists. So I'm going to plug in my activation code. I'm going to give this some rudimentary name, and I just call this Alletra MP. Now, the reason why I didn't download that because the VM already existed, but if I was bringing in something like a SimpliVity system, I would want to download that. Now I'm going to go back down here. We're going to take a look at my Data Services Connector. We can see it's all connected, but what we will see is I will not be connected quite yet. I'm going to have to wait a little bit to get connected. All right, you can see our Data Services Connector is now connected, so now I can select the system and continue with this GreenLake deployment process. I'm going to click Next. You can see a lot of the information is already pre-populated as we go through this. We certainly don't have a proxy server. I'm going to need to put my contact information in here, so obviously if you guys have been following the channel, my name is John Bussard. I'm actually from the United States, and I do work for Ingram Micro. So I'm going to select the English language as well as plug in Ingram Micro into the company. I'm going to do that correctly. And I'm going to fill out all this information, and then once I'm done, I'm going to click Next. There we go. All right, I'm going to give my storage system a name. We're just going to call it Alletra MP. I'm going to select the country it is in. All right, you can see again some of this information has been populated. Now, system credentials, these will get created. I've already created this system credentials. We'll see some of that as we go through this process. Now I'm going to start to add my iSCSI addresses, and this will be on the storage system itself. So I've got 2 controllers. Each controller has 2 ports, so I'm going to need 2 subnets and an address, an IP address per controller for this part of the setup. You can see I'm plugging that in, and quite obviously we're going to use jumbo frames as a part of the process. So there's my first subnet. So let's add our second subnet. Again, I'm going to need 2 addresses, 1 for each of the controllers. Now what I will say is something here threw me for a loop as I work through this. So you'll see as I start adding the subnet in here, I'm going to get conflict errors, and that existed and kind of till I clicked out of this box, and then it went away. So it caught me off guard, but you can see once I clicked out, I selected jumbo frames and added. We can see that we're all set and ready to move forward. So I'm going to click Next. Now the servers come pre-configured as a part of this solution. So everything we need should already be on there. And all I should be able to do is discover them as long as everything is cabled correctly. There they are. We're going to click Next again. And I'm going to start putting in my server management network address. And this will be for the IP address for the ESX hosts themselves. So I'm going to start at 123. And then we'll allow it to kind of scale up from there. And then for my ILO addresses, I'm going to start at 126. This should accommodate the 2 systems I have, as well as give me room for the 3rd system. So now we're going to put the iSCSI addresses for the ProLiant servers, the starting addresses. So again, we will need 2 of them because I have 2 ESX hosts and 2 subnets. And now we're going to add our credentials for our system. So these credentials don't exist yet. They're going to be added as a part of the install process. This will be for the ESX hosts themselves. And then after this is done, what we will do is we're going to add it for the ILO interface. All right, so we're going to do that now. So we're going to add the username, as well as the secret password. All right, we're going to click Save. I'm going to click Next. Now, I got a fresh Vcenter install. You would have had done that prior to this deployment. So I'm putting in its address, and I'm going to add its credentials on in. So I'm just a demonstration environment, so I'm going to use administrator at vsphere.local for this setup. All right, so these credentials would already need to exist within the Vcenter environment, so these aren't necessarily created. All right, and this will allow connectivity from Private Cloud Business Edition from within the GreenLake platform into this environment. All right, and obviously we're going to need to read the Broadcom EULA as a part of this process. So make sure you look through this. And then once we've done that, we could click Next. Now this is a blank Vcenter server, so I'm going to need add a data center as well as a cluster to place my ESX hosts into. So you'll see that those will exist when we look inside the Vcenter environment. And we're ready to submit. Now, quite obviously, as we look at this process, this will take a while. I will fast forward this. You will see it will stall out, it will fail, and I will have to retry it, and it worked after that. What happened was I had not configured jumbo frames correctly, and I had a couple cables mixed up. Right, but I could retry and move back on a 3, as you will see. Alright, once I reconfigured the switch to support jumbo frames and I switched around a couple cables, I restarted the deployment. You can see it was successful. I actually closed out this web browser and relaunched it, and it brought me right back to the same place I was once I went into the same section. So I could just click retry. Right, so what I'm going to do now that the deployment's done, I'm going to go over to the dashboard and actually find my system within the system utilization chart, and obviously it's way on the bottom because it's not using any resources as we speak. I also wanted to see the system within the systems profile. All right, and we could see it, and you can see again there's not a lot going on the array, but it doesn't exist. Yep, and next I'm going to go to Data Ops Manager within dHCI, and this is where I'd manage the physical array if I wanted to, so it certainly shows up over there as well. And I could open this up and take a quick look inside here, and then I'm going to go over to block storage, and this is where I'd go if I want to provision volumes outside of the private cloud business edition environment, and we could see that we are set up. Alright, so it occurred to me that maybe you guys would like to see what Vcenter looks like after the deployment of this private cloud business edition solution, this dHCI solution based on the Alletra MP. So I thought I'd give you a tour. Now I have logged into this environment previously. Actually, I have a few virtual machines already running in here, and I did clean up the environment. Obviously, there's licensing that needs to be added to the environment. I got notices about SSH being open and the console being open, and you can turn those off or ignore the warnings on those. So things like that, part of a normal vSphere install, I had to clean up within this environment. So just so you're aware that I did that. We can see the data center and the cluster that I created as a part of the process, if you were paying attention as we were going through some of the context. I have two systems here. They're both DL325 Gen 11 based systems, so these are AMD EPYC based systems. This virtual machine is a data services connector, and this is the glue between this on-prem install and private cloud business edition up within the GreenLake platform. So this manages that connectivity within the environment. All these VMs I created. If I look at storage, you can see I have two reserve service data stores. All right, and actually one of them here has that data services connector on them. Now there's two of them because a part of VMware HA, you do want two data stores for redundancy in the environment, kind of detect if there's failures or a split brain type of situation. All right, so that's what's there. One other thing I will note over here with the data services connector, during the initial install, each one of these hosts would have had one of these data services connector. And we just picked one as a part of the deployment, but you can see the other one has went away as a part of this deployment. All right, we could take a look at the networking configuration as well. If I look over here and I look under configure, we'll go down to virtual switches. Now I created all these VLANs down here, but we can see the management network has been configured across two of the network adapters. If I go down a little bit further, we can see one of the iSCSI paths as well as the secondary iSCSI path that was configured over here. Now, with a dHCI solution or a private cloud business edition solution based off the Alletra 5000 and 6000, which if you look at the local management context, it looks a lot like a Nimble type of solution, well, whereas the Alletra MP looks a lot like a Primera based solution as far as a local management context, or off the 3-power legacy if you're looking at the CLI. With the, I would say, the Alletra 5000 and 6000, there will be a VMware plugin that you'll have. So if you right click, you'll see the plugin down here. All right, and you'll see it over in storage as well. Now the idea as we move forward and we have this data services connector is we're not going to use a plugin moving forward. We want to be able to manage this through the GreenLake platform or through Private Cloud Business Edition. So again, remember when we say dHCI, that's a hardware platform based on Alletra storage and Proliant servers. When we say Alletra MP, that's a storage platform. Right? And when we say things like GreenLake for block storage, that's really the management context within GreenLake that manages an Alletra MP system. And when you say PCBE or a Private Cloud Business Edition, that's the management tile that manages a dHCI solution hardware set. So if the real idea and the reason why the plugin is not here is because if we go up and we look in the GreenLake interface, right, and I go into data services, and then we look at Private Cloud Business Edition, I launch that. Right, this will be our management context. Now I plan on having a video that's going to go over managing a PCB environment, a Private Cloud Business Edition environment, in the future. So that will happen, but I just want to make you aware that this exists, and this would be your management plane for this solution. So with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please stay tuned for more videos.